Funding for the Nash Villager podcast comes from the Hal Allen Clinic, specializing in minimally invasive robotic spine surgery and laser brain tumor surgery. For 40 years, the neurosurgeons of the Hal Allen Clinic have been national leaders in brain and spine surgery.
This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support. This is the Nash Villager Podcast. It's August 25th, 2025. On this day, in 2012, Goodlettsville's Little League team won the national championship in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. It was huge news for the community for a couple of weeks, and I was lucky enough to be there following the team on that historic run. I'm Tony Gonzalez. Each weekday, the Nash Villager podcast gives you the latest news headlines, an in-depth feature, and an on-this-day mini essay to give you context. So today, we're going back a mere 13 years. The benefit is that you get to hear me blab as a real-life eyewitness to some excellent Little League action. First, disclosures, I am a baseball guy. Won a state championship once at age 14, threw a no-hitter against some team from Minnesota once. Never sniffed any glory again in high school. Disclosure 2. I was covering Goodlettsville Little League as a reporter for the Tennessean when the team won. And neutrality aside, it was a blast. It's not often that this sort of hoopla bubbles up. There were community watch parties for those games at Moss Wright Park. One of the players made a diving catch that got him onto SportsCenter's top plays. The families knew what a fleeting and unique moment this was. One thing that sticks with me is how one of the dads, who had played professional baseball himself, thought his 12-year-old son was feeling more pressure than he ever did. The highest profile Little League World Series games, they truly are just for that age, 12 years old. One shot at glory, and some life lessons to be learned. The other truth, and they mostly knew it then, at least the parents did, was that few of these players would really go that far in baseball. A couple went on to play in college. I loosely kept track of those players for a while. But what resonates with me now more than ever is how the winning truly wasn't what mattered. It sounds too cheesy to believe, but the feeling in Williamsport is one of such camaraderie. I have rarely experienced it anywhere in life. Kids from around the world are just hyped to be there, trading autographs and collectible pins, getting to goof around on TV. There are so many examples of good sportsmanship that they start to blur together, but it is real. For the record, Goodlettsville won the national championship on this day in 2012. It was probably the most thrilling live sporting event I've attended. They had this huge lead, but they blew it in the last inning. The team from California roared back to tie. Then Goodlettsville rallied again for a final score of 24-16. And yes, that score. It was Little League. It was a lot of home runs. But back to that lesson about what's fleeting. Goodlettsville would go on to lose the next day to the team from Japan for the international championship, and that game was a lopsided loss. To some degree, the kids hardly seemed to care, and the families were still out there gobbling up the souvenirs from what they'd experienced. I'll never forget the last Goodlettsville player who was on the field that afternoon, Jonathan Seals. He grabbed this disposable cup and started scooping up one last keepsake, a piece of the field itself. His dad, from the side, called in some coaching. "Get the dirt," he advised. And then, much more quietly, but I was close enough, he sighed and said something about how the grass would die. For making a memory, it was that baseball dirt that would keep. And that's what would keep people like me talking about that day in history a decade later. In just a few minutes, we're hearing about the first medical cannabis dispensary in Kentucky. That's coming up after the newscast.
Funding for the Nash Villager podcast comes from the Hal Allen Clinic, specializing in minimally invasive robotic spine surgery and laser brain tumor surgery. For 40 years, the neurosurgeons of the Hal Allen Clinic have been national leaders in brain and spine surgery.
Here's the mantra I think about at WPLN. We connect the dots. It captures a mindset that our journalism is not merely about the latest press release or proclamations by officials. Instead, we can develop expertise, dig deeper, and look to history to understand what's happening now. I'm Tony Gonzalez, news director. When I'm planning coverage and editing stories, the best part is being part of a team that's curious about our community and invested in its future.
From WPLN News in Nashville, I'm Nina Cardona. Tennessee has executed 2 people this year, but a lawsuit about the lethal injection protocol is far from over. Defense attorneys for death row inmates are asking for very detailed information about lethal injection drugs. The state does not want to give it to them. WPLN's Catherine Sweeney gives us the latest.
This is part of a bigger lawsuit, where death row inmates argue the new lethal injection protocol is illegal. Davidson County Chancellor Russell Perkins has to decide what documents and information he wants from the state. State attorneys worry leaks could make lethal drug sellers back out and make executions impossible. Opponents argue they need these documents to make sure the drugs are being sourced legally and safely, not from the black market or pharmacies with failed inspections. In July, Perkins said, "Let's meet in the middle. Turn over records, but you can censor sensitive information." The state appealed. In the meantime, lawyers for death row inmates asked for really detailed records. For example, a list of everyone the state contacted on its search for pentobarbital since 2022. On Friday, the state asked for permission to ignore those questions and stop turning over any documents until the appeal is heard. Catherine Sweeney, WPLN News.
After his release from a Tennessee prison, Kilmer Abrego Garcia now faces the threat of deportation to Uganda. The new detail surfaced in weekend court filings. Attorneys say the high-profile detainee and defendant declined to be deported to Costa Rica in exchange for a plea deal. Immigration officials then altered their target destination to Uganda. Abrego Garcia, who was wrongly deported to El Salvador, was released to Maryland to await trial. He has since been notified that he should report to immigration authorities today. He faces human smuggling charges stemming from a 2022 traffic stop in Tennessee. His lawyers say the charges against him are purely political. A new Tennessee court ruling is being touted by gun owners as a major shift in their favor. The Tennessee Firearms Association challenged state laws that restrict the carrying of guns in parks and other settings. The ruling from a 3-judge panel on Friday finds those state laws unconstitutional. One law gave police officers probable cause to stop, question, or arrest people who were carrying guns, and made it the legal burden of the person to prove they were legally carrying. By flipping that assumption that carrying a gun is allowable, the Firearms Association suggests a potentially wide-ranging impact that would also make other gun restrictions moot. The 3-judge panel also found the state's law limiting guns in public parks unconstitutional. The case pitted the Firearms Association against the governor, the attorney general, and other officials. It's too soon to know whether the ruling will be appealed. For now, gun supporters are hailing it as a win, including against Republican leaders in the state house they've butted heads with for years. Metro's Department of Emergency Communications has responded to allegations of a culture of discrimination and harassment. The department's board of directors sent a letter defending Department Director Steve Martini. That's after the Metro Council Women's Caucus sent a letter to Nashville's mayor urging him to answer questions about the department, including about performance evaluations for Martini. The caucus said they had received various complaints about the department's toxic workplace. On Friday, Mayor Freddie O'Connell told reporters that Metro Council caucuses are, quote, not really the place for HR matters, and that he's not aware of any active HR complaints. A South Nashville resident has tested positive for West Nile virus, marking Metro's first human case of the year. The health department says its mosquito traps were already showing heightened activity in the area. The person had not traveled recently, meaning it's likely they contracted the virus from local mosquitoes. South Nashville isn't the only area with infected mosquitoes. Metro reports 27 sites across the county have turned up positive samples. Cases of what was once a rare tick-borne disease have increased dramatically. Alpha-gal syndrome is transmitted through the bite of the Lone Star tick and causes severe allergic reactions to red meat and other products. Those can include dairy items, chocolate, makeup, shampoo, and body wash. In the early 2000s, there are around 1,000 cases nationwide. Now experts say that number could be more than 400,000. In Bowling Green, resident Lori Dawson was diagnosed in 2020 with one of the first recorded cases of alpha-gal in Kentucky, and she still remembers the long and difficult process of finding answers.
I lost like 12 pounds in a matter of 2 months. So my brain kind of went to my mom had colon cancer about the age I was. And so I thought, that's probably what I've got. Like, I've got to get this looked into. But then I started realizing that it was a lot worse when I ate beef or pork.
The rapid rise in cases could be tied to expanding tick populations as people move into more wooded areas. Also, climate change is limiting the number of cold days in a row that typically kill off tick populations. A Nashville nonprofit that helps college students who've fallen behind on tuition payments is in the thick of its busy season. Demetrius Short is the founder of the Transformation Life Center.
My wife and I called August, the month of August, Hell Month. Our phones ring constantly. Mr. Short, help me. And I'm talking Belmont, Meharry, Fisk, TSU.
Short's nonprofit now helps students at 7 universities. In its 15th year, its largest fundraiser is a 5K where runners wear business suits and sneakers. The race commemorates Short's own experience scraping his way through Fisk University, almost failing out and sleeping on couches around campus. He'd walk roughly 3.1 miles in a business suit to get to and from his internships off West End Avenue. Demetrius Short tells his story on today's episode of WPLN's This is Nashville. The interim leader of American Baptist College in Nashville now has the permanent role. Reverend Dr. Derek Jackson is now the college's 11th president after a vote by the Board of Trustees, which he previously served on. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. A rural town in western Kentucky will be home to that state's first medical cannabis dispensary. In a state that has struggled with prescription drug addiction, more than 11,000 patients have been approved to purchase the alternative treatment. Out-of-state patients can also qualify for access. For member station WKYU, Lisa Autry takes us to Beaver Dam.
Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining.
Ohio County is best known as the home of bluegrass music legend Bill Monroe. Its largest city is Beaver Dam, with a population of 3,500. And Mayor Paul Sandifer says the town anchor is the Baptist Church.
You hear the joke about what came first, the chicken or the egg. Here we talk about what came first, the city or the Beaver Dam Baptist Church. And actually it was the church. The church was started in 1798 and the city formed around it.
Beaver Dam will be the first place where you can legally buy medical marijuana since it was legalized in Kentucky in January. General Manager Trip Hoffman will open the Post dispensary this fall, and he knows there's a stigma.
And let us prove ourselves. Your customers come and go every 5 minutes. They're not here, they don't hang out, we're not loitering, we're not consuming. We're just another hardware store, another CVS, another pharmacy.
When you enter the city limits of Beaver Dam, the welcome sign reads, "Life is good here." For chronic pain sufferers like Misty Taylor, it's about to get better.
I had a bad horseback riding accident in 2015 and broke several vertebrae. My back is totally wired together.
Taylor says medical marijuana eases her back pain so she can work as a restaurant server. She's tried other forms of treatment that haven't worked.
I was going and getting shots in my back, and it would give me relief basically until I got home. Pain pills seemed to give me like a mental fog.
Since Governor Beshear issued an executive order in 2022, Taylor has been traveling to Illinois to purchase cannabis products. But driving 2 hours to Metropolis isn't convenient. Taylor is excited to buy medical cannabis in her hometown. So is Nisa Voiles, who's wearing a shoulder sling from a recent surgery. She, too, has been going out of state to buy marijuana.
I am a professional businesswoman. Not one person has frowned upon me. Not one person has thought anything less of me or my skill set due to it.
At one point, Voiles was on 14 daily medications to treat her migraines, arthritis, and chronic pain. Her support for medical cannabis is personal. She lost her mother to years of prescription drug abuse.
I grew up without a mama because she was always in bed. Sometimes I had to go in there, multiple times I had to go in there with a mirror just to see if she was breathing or not because I didn't want to touch her. There is so many people that could have been saved had they had medical marijuana then.
The Post Dispensary in Beaver Dam will offer Voiles and other chronic sufferers a range of medical cannabis products, including tinctures, edibles, topicals, and flour. General Manager Trip Hoffman offered a look inside.
And so on this kiosk, you'll see the menu. You can say, okay, I want one of those. So you hit it, it goes into your cart, and then when I go to my cart and I want to check out.
Ordering medical marijuana is much like ordering on a kiosk at McDonald's, but there's no supersizing. For a majority of cardholders, the allowable limit is 4 ounces of flour every 25 days. The Post Dispensary in Beaver Dam hopes to be stocked by October, but that could get delayed because of supply chain constraints.
Patients may not be all that happy, but we'll do our best.
Governor Beshear acknowledges it's taken longer than he would have liked to form the medical cannabis industry in Kentucky. Because of that, his 2022 executive order remains in place, protecting those who purchase medical cannabis at out-of-state licensed retailers. I'm Lisa Autry in Bowling Green.
That story was produced as part of the Appalachia Mid-South Newsroom, a collaboration between NPR and several public radio stations in West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee, including WPLN. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. And thanks so much to all of you who've left 5 stars, a thumbs up, or a review in your app of choice. A little bit of love really does tell the algorithms that more people should hear about us. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org. And also thanks very much to Tony Gonzalez and Blake Farmer for filling in when I got sick last week. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.
Funding for the Nashvillager podcast comes from the Hal Allen Clinic, specializing in minimally invasive robotic spine surgery and laser brain tumor surgery. For 40 years, the neurosurgeons of the Hal Allen Clinic have been national leaders in brain and spine surgery.